Rachel here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 242, and we're asking, how can you use Scrivener to write your novels? Before we start, if you enjoyed the show, consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we have plenty of goodies for all. If you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get you access to a few more treats, or you can become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. For this, you'll get access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to bonus episodes, all the while helping to support our podcast. But if that's not your style and you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you're not already, and consider dropping us a like on YouTube. We've talked about Scrivener so many times. Both Ari and I love it. We both have it. And if you don't know, Scrivener is a writing program from Literature and Latte. You could just Google, we'll leave a link in the description below, but you could just Google Scrivener and it'll pop up. And it's a writing program that you can download onto your computer. It does cost money. I can't remember how much at the top of my head, to be brutally honest. It's pretty cheap, and it's not a subscription. It's a one-time payment. So once you have it, you get the license key and you have it. And it's glorious. And Scrivener is just a fancy writing program that you can keep track of your notes and your research, and it'll help you format your novel, and it has plenty of templates. So we just wanted to gush a little bit about Scrivener this week. I will say that we are not endorsed by Scrivener. We're not sponsored by it or anything. Although if Literature Latte wants to sponsor us for it, they're more than welcome. We would not say no to that. We just really like this program, so we thought we would talk about it a little bit. When I first started writing eons ago, I wrote on Microsoft Word. And we all know what Microsoft Word is. It's you get the blank piece of paper and you write on it. And that's you can do other fancy stuff with it too. I never really figured out how to do that other fancy stuff. But it's just kind of like, to me, it's just kind of bare bones. Scrivener allows you to do so much more. You have the paper, you have a cork board, and you can put things into folders, and you can break it up into chapters. You can break it up into scenes. They have character lists. They have setting lists. They just have so much. One of the nice things about Scrivener is that when you download the program onto your computer and you open it for the first time, it'll ask you what you're writing, and it has various templates depending on what it is. So they have a template for scripts. They have a template for short stories, recipes if you're writing a cookbook, basic fiction novels, or you could just start with a bare bones blank template if you want. So because I write murder mysteries, I tend to write with the fiction, but you can also make your own templates, and that's one of my favorite things to do on Scrivener. It's very distracting. I spent like an entire week making a template for myself on Scrivener rather than actually writing. But it made it so much easier for me to actually write my novels because I had everything right in front of me that I know works best for myself and my writing style.
Just as a nip in, I think Scrivener's about $60. It was like less than that for ages, and it went up in 2022. And honestly, it's been round that kind of price for ages, and they don't seem to put their price up very often. And to say it's, as Rachel said, not a subscription, that is pretty damn good for what you get. Just saying.
No, it is. I think I got it for 50% off because I participated and won a NaNoWriMo session, because they do sponsor NaNoWriMo. I don't necessarily endorse NaNoWriMo anymore. Just throwing that out there. If you know, you know. But if you do still participate in NaNoWriMo, I think you get like 25% off. And then if you win, you'll get like 50% off or something. Again, don't quote me. Haven't been on the website in a while, but that's how it worked when I got it.
One thing about Scrivener, I think it was created by authors and it's designed for authors. Whereas a lot of other like Word is for everybody. You know, you might be writing reports, you might be doing letters. Scrivener is designed to be good for writers and authors and things. And you've got all these, like, you know, you can have a short story, you can have a novel with parts and all that. And I find it really good, mainly because I write in scenes. Talked about this in other episodes. And when I used to use Word, I used to use Works before that because I am that old. But when I used to use Word, because I wrote in scenes, I would have dozens or even hundreds of Word documents because I couldn't write like, one after the other. I would have to have each scene on a separate document, and then I'd have to spend all my time combining them. Whereas Scrivener, I can do that, but it's still in one document. And then you can just compile it and it becomes one big document, and it's so much easier. And it just helps to have these little individual scenes. Like even now, I have my chapters, and within the chapter folder, I have like 3 or 4 scenes, and it just helps. It really makes a difference if you're that kind of weirdo that writes in scenes like me. But yeah, I'll be honest, I actually use Scrivener not just for writing, but I use it for world building. I actually have a world book for each of my series / trilogy / ideas. And I keep all my details I keep all the details separate from the manuscript. So if I've got a trilogy I'm working on, I don't want to put all my characters and locations and everything in book 1, because when I come to book 2, I'm gonna have to faff with it. So I always create a new world book. And again, you can break it down in folders. So you can have transportation, you can have realms, you can have characters, you can have minor characters, plot points can be in there, currency, economics, the layout of your land. And because you can even put pictures in, I'm almost sure you can import pictures into some of the things. It makes it really good for that. And I also have another thing. I have a marketing Scrivener. So what I do is I break my folders down again, and it's like social media, book tours, podcasts. And again, I appreciate that some of these I haven't done, but every time I gain information about things, or I'm doing market research and I'm thinking, wow, I'd really like to be on that podcast, or wow, I found that book tour was really good, I'm going to reach out to that person. I will put that information and I will list it into a Scrivener file. And I have it broken down by like what to do before the launch, what to do during the launch, what to do after the launch, what to do 6 months after the launch, what to do when you're starting a new series, and like teasers and things like that. And it just all stays in one thing. And I just find it so much easier than just using a Word document. And I'm not really sure why, but it really helps to have that. And I think it's because visually it feels more comfortable to use. And I say that as someone who, when I got Scrivener, I tried it once, hated it, didn't use it again for like 4 years, and then watched a YouTube video, went back to it, and think it's the bee's knees now. So
I did the exact same thing. I got Scrivener. I didn't care too much for the learning curve. There's not even a big learning curve, but I just didn't want to take the time to figure it out. So therefore, I was like, this is dumb. I don't like it. And then I stopped using it, and then I rediscovered it later, and now I love it. And I gotta say, Ari explained Scrivener so much better than I was. I apologize. This episode is gonna be messy, but this is the Mary Writer podcast. So if you've been listening to us for a while, you know what you've signed up for. I also appreciate how similar and yet so different you and I are, because I prefer to have it all on the one Scrivener. I created my own Scrivener template. So whenever I write a new story, I just use that same template. But in that template, I have the different drafts. I have like a mother folder labeled manuscript, and then I have 3 folders within that folder labeled draft 1, draft 2, draft 3. And then inside those folders, I have more folders, beginning, middle, end. And then in the beginning, middle, end, that's where all my scenes are. So I like break it up so that you have what's the thing called? The pyramid, the story pyramid, the plot point thing, the exposition and the resolution, all that
yeah,
stuff.
oh my God, what's it called?
What's it
The
called? I don't know.
arc. It's the arc, isn't it?
Oh,
It's the
okay.
story
Yeah.
arc.
I always call it the pyramid, but same difference. You guys know what we're talking about, right? I hope. I don't know. We'll find out. But then I have a section for marketing. And I just have like a bare bones list of where to market. I have a list of social media, a list of like reading platforms, a list of book blogs, where to get reviews, et cetera, et cetera. And then I have a folder that's separate for promotional material. So I have my author bio, I have the press release, I have the media kit, I have excerpts and quotes, and I just put it all in that one thing. So a lot of the stuff in this template is going to be universal for all of my books, such as, the marketing list of like where to promote the book. but the actual promotional material is going to change depending on what story I'm currently working on. Like my author bio is probably going to be slightly different for each project and things like that. But then I also have a list of notes, and in my notes, I have the publishing timeline, editing notes, a to-do list. I have a separate thing for deleted scenes and good lines. That's also just for promoting, and I mean, you shouldn't delete any of your work, so you want to remember that. Oh, and also just like research. I have a thing of general resources, so I have a list of websites and books that I would go to for just basic research and things to know. And then I also have a separate sheet that says research specific to the current book. It's very long. It's a very big template, which I told you it took me like a week to make. And I'm probably still missing stuff on there. But yeah, I'll let Ari respond before I continue.
I'm not sure how I can respond to that. That just sounds like too many folders, and that just gives me anxiety. But hey, whatever works.
I don't want it in like 6,000 because I was like you, I had 6,000 different Word documents and I wanted everything in one spot so that if I edited stuff like that's not hard copy, I just have the different drafts right there if I need to like look back on something real quick. And because you can compile it, you can choose which folders to include in your compile. So it's not like I would compile all 3 drafts into one thing. You can choose what you want to do. So it works for me, or for now. I say that for now. It very well may change in the future because I always need to change things up. But for now, this is where my mind goes.
No, I get that. And if it works for you, it works for you. I have to say, the idea of having multiple folders inside it with different drafts, I hoard digital items and I get very obsessive with it. So I have to try and stop myself. If I did that, and because I go through so many drafts, my Scrivener file would be massive and I could imagine it just crashing my machine. So what I do is every time I finish the manuscript, I compile it and save it as a Word document. Back to the Word document with the date, and it's draft 1. And then I go back into Scrivener and I edit in Scrivener, and whatever's in there gets changed to draft 2. That way I don't have multiple drafts in Scrivener. I have backups if I need them as Word documents that get saved to the cloud, but that's it. Otherwise, each folder would be massive because I can't help myself with editing. It's awful. I have a problem. I need Editors Anonymous, I think. Just like, and I think there'll be a lot of us there too. I don't think I'd be the only person. Just saying.
No, absolutely. That's why I limit it to the 3 drafts though, because I mean, if it goes on longer, it ends up going on longer, but I try to limit myself just to the 3 drafts. But I don't have Word anymore. Whenever I compile it into a PDF.
No, that's weird.
It is. I agree with that, but that's how I do things. Because I prefer to edit. I don't really like digital editing. I prefer to edit on like a hard copy. So I usually compile it as a PDF and then I just print it and go from there.
It might just be me. Every time I compile it, it always looks a little weird, and it always, no matter how many times I change the margins or anything, it always goes over. And it's like, I know I've done it right. I've checked, and it just has weird moments with me. Anyway, we should go back to talking about actual Scrivener for other people.
With that segue, one of the things that Scrivener includes is the front matter, which I really appreciate because front matter is such a straightforward thing, but it's also not for a lot of people, myself included. So it has like the separate front matter pages, such as the title page, the copyright. You can also add the dedication, the acknowledgements, and a preface if you need a preface. But yeah, it lays everything out for you, and it's just I realize I feel like I'm not contributing anything useful to this episode. I'm just gushing about how much I enjoy Scrivener, but yeah, it just, as Ari said, it's by authors for authors, and I feel like they didn't miss anything. They really lay everything out for you, and you just have to plug in your information and, actually write your book.
Well, that's it. When I use it, I always have, there's what's called the inspector panel on the right hand side, and that gives you like, I think it's for like putting a summary for your story, and I think that then comes up on the corkboard, which by the way I never use, and I find that funny because I am the sort of person that likes to put the plot points on card and move it, but in that sense I have to do it in a physical sense, not a digital one.
I agree. I don't use the corkboard either. I do it with regular index cards, like in person, in real
Yeah,
life.
sometimes some things you need to do physically, but I do like the inspector panel because I throw notes in it. I just use it as a notepad, and I'm like, oh, I need to check this. I need to, and it usually gets full of ideas and notes and questions. That's where I stick questions. And as I said, I break mine down by folders, and within each folder is a chapter, and within each chapter is a file that has the details in, and you can preset the formatting. So if you use, maybe you want yours in Arial size 10 with a double space, you can set that automatically. Then every document that comes up like that, I really like that because I'm forever messing about and changing things. One other thing, going back to the compiling. So when you've completed, you can compile, and it sort of pulls everything together that is ticked. That was a mistake I had recently when I did my manuscript, compiled it, edited it, and then handed it to my partner, who is my alpha reader, not realizing I hadn't ticked every single scene. And he had several questions going like, I don't understand this part. And it was because there was a whole scene missing. So do make sure you've ticked it and double check everything. But you can actually compile it, and it will do PDF, it will do doc for Word, it does rich format text, I think it does like HTML and plain text, and it also does EPUB and Mobi. Might not do one of them anymore. Which one's gone? I can't remember. Is it one of them gone? I think one of them's gone.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Mobi I think is
is it
gone,
Mobi? But
I
yeah, so it has
believe.
EPUB for an ebook. So it gives you all this information, it gives you all this stuff to make it easier for you. And as Rachel said earlier, it's like there is a learning curve, because if you've only ever used Word or Google Docs or anything, it is very different. But at the same time, if you can just push through that, go and look at a few YouTube channels that tell you. I think I watched a video, I don't even think it was a tutorial. I think I watched a video from, is it Joanna Penn from the Creative Pen podcast? I think I watched one of her videos of her talking about how she did her Scrivener, and I just liked the visual. And then I started learning about it. So big shout out to her for, because she got me into using Scrivener, and it's brilliant. But yeah, definitely, if you're going to give it a try, go and look into how to set it up and use it. And once you've got it set up, it really is good for getting it all ready for you. And I think I'm guessing here, but I've got a feeling it saves like every few seconds, and it keeps like 5 different copies of the save, and then it repeats and overwrites. So if you mess up, I think you've got like 5 copies somewhere in your computer. Which honestly, the number of times Word would crash and it would claim that it had saved things and it hadn't. It's like, here's the recovery. Oh, we lost it. I've never had that issue with Scrivener. I have to say, I have never had that issue, and I've been using it for years.
Scrivener is consistently, like constantly backing things up. Yeah. To it gets to the point that you have to go through your files on your computer every once in a while and start like trashing like the really old backups because it really does pile up.
The other thing that I really like is that there's a project target you can use, which tracks you. So you can start a project and say like, I want it to be 85,000 words, and I want to write 300 words every time I come on, and it gives you a little tracking bar, like a progress bar, and it goes green if you hit it, and it just tracks how many words you've got. Obviously it tracks kind of everything, especially I think it's anything compiled that's been ticked to compile. So if you've got a lot of like plot notes or characters description and you've ticked them by mistake, it will add that to your total of words, so be careful of that. And the other thing I like is, I personally love using the colored flags. You can put icons next to all your files, and it means you can mark them as being like, well, this is a picture, that's for a character, this is a little map, that's for location information. But they also have these really cool little colored flags, and I use them as like a visual aid. So when I'm first doing my first draft, it's usually a white flag, and then the next draft is red, and then orange, and then green, and then when it's going to the beta, it's purple. And as weird as it is, that quick visual is really helpful to be like, I need to fix that chapter, or okay, that's still on red. That I'm gonna have to go back to that, and I don't want to. So I'll just leave it. But yeah, I think especially if you're a visual person, you need a quick like look up and there it is. There are lots of little icons, and I think there's pins and all sorts. There's lots of little things, but I think the flags are good because they're like a multiple of colors. So yeah, you can use things like that to help you track.
I actually don't use the icons, but I really like the way you utilize them. I never knew what to use them for or like how to use them. I knew what you could use them for, but like for me personally, I was like, I don't know how I want to utilize them, so I just never did, but I like the way you do it. It's like the status of that current scene and stuff. I like that. I'm gonna have to start doing that.
I went so far as to find other icons and upload them into Scrivener because I've got like trim the fat where I'm trimming bad things off my thing, and I've got this little pair of scissors.
You can do that?
You can do that. Yes. And I think it's got like silly things like I think there's a ghost and everything. So if I've killed a character, they get a ghost. Yeah. Oh, I went crazy and added loads of new icons. I haven't even used them all, but I just wanted to. It was procrastinating, but I got a lot of new icons, and then I've got loads of different things. So like my plot has a little icon, and my I have a character list that I automatically have, and then a minor character list, so they've got different icons. Just another way to not do the writing. But yeah, I just find it really helpful because I have so many scenes, because it's often a scene, not a chapter. So as I'm going through, I might have 3 of the 4 scenes in the chapter are green, and then there's, you know, one red one that needs my attention, and I just close it and pretend to not see it. That's how I do things.
Well, I know how I'm going to be procrastinating later on. Because the only thing I've done to upload onto my Scrivener is like looking at templates that other people have created. And that's actually how I created my mystery book template, because I took somebody else's mystery template and tweaked it and added to it and, you know, made it my own and stuff. But I did not know you could do that with the icons. Wow. Okay. All right.
We're going
No,
to be
I'm
discussing
thinking.
this afterwards, aren't we? When we go offline.
I know. Well, no, see, now my brain is already drifting and we're still recording. So I gotta focus on the episode. Think about the icons later. But yeah, before I get too distracted, just wanted to say that I apologize that this episode was extremely messy. I didn't even write any notes. I just gushed about Scrivener the entire time. But there's just so much that you could do with it. And I do agree with Ari. The progress tracker is amazing. I like being able to visually see how much progress I am making in my novel. And you can see the project stats as well, which is always cool. You can see the overall amount of words, the overall amount of characters and things. It's just, and the reading time. The reading time is pretty cool. So you can click on your project stats and it'll tell you, oh, you have this many words. So it would take like the average reader like an hour and 24 minutes to read through the whole document. And it's just cool. It's just, why are you shaking your head?
I did not know that. That is useful to know. See,
Yes.
even now, used it for ages, still learning things.
Wait, where is it? It's under I have my laptop up. If you guys hear clicking, it's because I have my Scrivener up so that I actually was supposed to help me stay on track, and that didn't happen. Yeah, if you go to project and then statistics at under the compiled, it'll have the reading time. And it also shows you the word frequency. So if you are the type of person that uses that or very often enough, you'll be able to see how many times you've used it in your whole document. And then you can go through it and start chippity chopping at those words. But yeah, overall, Scrivener is just amazing. And if you have a little extra cash, definitely get it, buy it, download it on your computer, and just use it. Even if you only use it for notes or marketing, as Ari mentioned earlier, she has a whole Scrivener document just for marketing, which is so cool. You can use it for anything and everything. And there are so many different templates. You can customize it however you want, whatever suits your writing style, whatever project or whatever genre you're working on. It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. And I'll shut up now because I think I've probably talked about Scrivener like way too much, and your heads are probably spinning at my words because I'm probably no longer making any sense. So if you want to learn more about us, because clearly you do, we're awesome, and you want to know more about this mess of a podcast and possibly opportunities to be a guest on this mess of a show, Don't forget to check out our Podbean website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. But in the meantime, we will turn it over to you guys. Do you use Scrivener for your novels? And if so, how much do you love it? And if not, why not? Or what do you use instead? You can tell us that. Let us know your answers in the comments so we can chat about it. But we do release a new episode every Wednesday, and next week we're discussing tracking your writing journey. So to ensure you don't miss it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. As always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Stuffed Bookshelves. Our TBR piles are huge. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.